Hi, this is Lorraine, and I've been guided to create another video. If you'll give me a minute to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. There will be 3 areas that I will focus on. I encourage you to check the timestamps to navigate the video as you see fit. And I would also encourage you to ask questions. I'm happy to answer any questions posed in the comments from my perspective and my intuitive knowing. The first item that came in, I wrote in my journal 3 times this week. And so typically when information comes in, I write it in my journal. And I don't look at it again until this morning, normally on Saturday mornings. And so when I was looking at it, it was written 3 times, so I know it's very important. It's a message that's been coming in since 2020, at least. And so I'll share that with you. The message is that Cepheus, which is the world where individuals who will be repeating the 3D cycle, that world, Cepheus, or the planet or the world in the Cepheus constellation, this planet is completely surrounded in some type of gas, and it's already been seeded. So there is already a civilization there. It is a new civilization. So it's not going to be a world that's evolved where Earth is at this point. It will be a world that is just emerging into this 3D level of consciousness. So the people or the individuals who have not transcended or will not be transcending will be incarnating on this world to repeat this 3D cycle. Also, what came in very clear is that this world has what has been described to me as a caste system, but also it's not what we think of when we say a caste system. And so what the information that comes to me is the society is segregated in some way. So people who have been living on this world, incarnating on this world, whether it's their first lifetime or they've had hundreds of lifetimes on this world, with every experience, with our words, our actions, our thoughts, and our intentions, we determine our path, where we're going, whether we're transcending. And so based on that criteria, each individual has first decided if they will be transcending, and then as they incarnate into their next lifetime, those same words, actions, thoughts, and intentions will determine where they will be placed on that world in the Cepheus constellation within that societal organization. And what also came in was prison planet. I don't feel like it's a prison planet though. I feel very strongly it's karmic. So even though I heard prison planet, I feel like that's a bit of a manipulation of energy, if I'm completely honest. I feel like this is a karmic planet. And I say that because Earth would not be defined as a karmic planet. What came in very strong this week about Earth is that Earth, let me see, how was it said? Earth is intended to be a planet of profound transformation and vetting. Earth is what it is because it's meant to be a place for us to come, grow, transform, evolve, expand, And then at the end of this journey, or our path on this world, there is a vetting and a calling. Are we ready to move to the next level of expansion or consciousness? That's what Earth is for. There are other worlds that are intended for us to go to for karmic purposes and to balance our karma or to work on our karma. And this planet in Cepheus would be one of those worlds where we can do work and then come back to another planet like Earth to start working on that vetting, that transformation that helps us grow and expand to the next level. But that was very important. And this is not punishment. I know if people feel like they're being held back or they're being judged in some way, that it's unfair. This isn't about fair, and this isn't judgment. We all are accountable for our words, actions, intentions, and thoughts. And it is our decisions that determine where we go. It's also very important to remember that we are just fractals, pieces of the divine consciousness. In our true divine state, we are whole, one, and we are divine. We are omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent beings experiencing ourselves from different perspectives. Another message that came in very clear, and it's come in numerous times over the years. Divinity, unity, wholeness, oneness, it has created universes where it has evolved in pure darkness, in pure evil, if you will. And it has explored what it can be from that perspective. This divine, omniscient, omnipresent being that is all things is existing and trying to figure out what it can possibly be. If we can step back from this microcosm of a perspective that we have from like Lorraine's point of view, or whatever individual on this world, their individual point of view of how they perceive themselves or this world, if we can expand and step back and think about from this huge expansive perspective as this divine being existing as pure consciousness and trying to discover itself and having nobody to tell it what it is, and having to find that out for itself. There have been so many iterations of so many universes that it has journeyed through on its journey of self-discovery, and we're part of that. We're always part of that. But it's important for me to say that because unity has already seen itself in its darkest place. And the best metaphor I can give you for that would be a drug addict that has given in 100% to its addiction, right? And I say this from experience. I have two brothers that one's recovering. Actually, they're both recovering right now. One's completely sober and one's recovering right now. But going deep into that dark place where you choose no restraint and just delve into it, divinity has gone to that place. This world, this universe is not meant to go there. This world, this universe is meant to find its place, find its balance, and exist from that place, from a dual place, right? We're meant to find balance and then become one and whole. So no matter how this unbalanced energy that's existing on this world tries to take hold and maintain control, it's not meant to. We are meant to have these experiences so we can grow and expand. It's intentional. And the reason why it's been taking so long, it feels like it's forever. Why do we why are we suffering? Why do we have to keep suffering? It's because every time a circumstance is placed before us, wherever we are on the spectrum of duality, from the most depraved to the most enlightened, every time we have a situation placed before us, we are given the opportunity to make the choice that helps us expand and grow to a place of balance, moving towards unity and wholeness. Even the most depraved individual on this world has an opportunity to make a different choice. And that's why we've been going through this process for so long. But at this point, I'm asked to convey this message, that those people who are not transcending will be going to a world in Cepheus. It will be a world that is just emerging out of, let's just say, the 2D into a 3D level of consciousness, and they will repeat that cycle. They will be placed in some type of societal infrastructure that's appropriate for where they are and the work they need to do. But this will happen, and there will be no breakaway civilizations. In past videos I've talked about different beings that have come to this world. The Zeta Reticuli were supposed to be beings that left this world, escaped, let's just say, some cabal energy that escaped when Earth moved back into balance, and they created their own breakaway civilization, and then they've come back here to do whatever. Okay, those experiences will not happen, because we're at a place of convergence. And I have talked about this in other videos. I've talked about timelines, cycles, and all those things, and I'll put that in the description. I can't really go into that right now, but those let's just say the Zeta Reticuli were a possible reality that divinity considered. And that possible reality did not come to fruition. It didn't bear fruit. It didn't provide anything that helped divinity grow, and did not serve the greater good. So that reality will not come into existence. And again, I did talk about this in some videos I did on timelines and cycles that kind of explain my perspective on that, but this isn't the place for me to talk about it or go into depth about it. And again, I will put those in the description. But it came in as I'm talking about this, so I felt like it was very important to bring up, because again, the words that came in while I was writing in my journal as this information came in was, this is a notice of intent. So just as this unbalanced energy needs to make people aware of what it's doing, and they do it in like very obscure places, on in the news, or on different government channels that nobody watches, they'll show you what they're doing. They'll tell you what they're doing, but they'll only do it in places where very few people are looking. But I've seen it. It's amazing that they actually said it. It's been so long, I don't watch it anymore, anything like that anymore. But it's pretty mind-boggling. That being said, the same thing comes from divinity's sharing its intention of transition, of transformation. What will happen? People need to know. And so this is an obscure place for divinity to share that information through me, through the messages I receive. The next message is setting up fields of protection. I talked about setting up fields of protection. I used to do it all the time when I took that class on, it was called the Psychic 1 class, and it taught me about the clairs, and we did a guided meditation. So that's basically what the class was. When I took that class, they discussed negative entities that could come in and manipulate you, and I was really concerned and worried, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be manipulated, because remember, I was like praying the rosary. I was someone who prayed the rosary. That's kind of what I did. Even though I wasn't practicing Catholicism, it was just a habit I had. That was my form of meditation, right? It was just something I did to connect with my grandmother. And that was really important to me as part of my faith in something greater than myself. So I was really worried about that, and I kept on asking for guidance. You know, how do I protect myself? What do I need to do? How do I set up, you know, a constant field of protection? I didn't say a constant field of protection. I was just like, how do I maintain protection? Because I was so worried about it. And I had this vision. What I found out 3 years later was a torsion. I didn't know what a torus was. And I found a GIF on some obscure website that I was on, and I started using that. And then a couple years after that, somebody said, "Do you know what that is?" And I said, "No." And they said, "It's a torus, and it's a theoretical image or idea of how the universe creates and collapses on itself." And I was like, very interesting, but nevertheless, so I had a name for it. But that vision came in very clear of bringing that light in, down through my crown, down through the bottom of my feet, and cycling that energy around, clearing myself of negative energy and attachments, and then setting up a field around me of protection. The other thing was, the messages that came in later was my negative thoughts. As I was going through this purging and going through my own transition and dealing with my trauma, I was incredibly defensive. So even though I wasn't acting out aggressively towards people, in my mind I still had thoughts of what I needed to do to protect myself that were physically defensive moves, right? If someone comes at me, if something, because I had dealt with a lot of abuse when I was younger. So that was a very real fear that I had, that people would come and physically try to hurt me. And people have physically tried to hurt me. So those negative thoughts put tears in that field. So as much work as I did to maintain clear-centered and balanced energy, just one negative thought or feeling or intention would put tears in that field I put up, which would allow unbalanced energy to come in and manipulate, right? So I started working through that. And so what I had learned was, or what came into me intuitively, was that the greatest protection that I have is living within the flow of the divine consciousness, living within the flow of energy. As I live in the flow of energy and I trust and have faith in the divine consciousness, in my path and my purpose, and know that I'm walking my path and my purpose, and do it with confidence, and don't doubt, and allow things to come in and happen and move through and around me without resistance, that's the greatest protection that I have. Because when I resist the flow of energy, that's when I create karma. That's when I create karma. If I'm allowing that energy to move over, around, through me, and just releasing it, whatever it is, that is the greatest protection that I have. And so for the last two and a half years, that has been my discipline. How do I not allow myself to be triggered? And how do I allow whatever energy is coming at me, positive, negative, or balanced energy, how do I let that move through me, over, around me, to serve my greatest good, and to serve the greatest good of what I am trying to achieve on my path and purpose, in my life, in my commitment to what I'm here for. It was just something I felt very important to bring up, because I had talked about that in the last week's video about setting up fields of protection around people. So that is my discipline that I do. But in the end, as we journey, the greatest protection we have is when we find our way to our path and our purpose, and we are living within the flow of energy, the flow of the divine consciousness, without resistance, so we're not creating karma. Because it's karma that creates boundaries, barriers, or obstacles for us to navigate. The final thing was, this came in, I think, yesterday or Thursday. It's about messing with time and perspective. And it goes back to the first thing I talked about those who are not transcending and who will be incarnating in Cepheus, in the Cepheus constellation. We have set up calendars with days, weeks, months. We have 365 days in the year, except for on a leap year. And on a leap year, we have February 29th. So we have 366 days. But this is a lie. Our days are not even, but we are meant to believe, we are told that we have 24 hours in a day, that we have 30 or 31 days in a month, that there are 7 days in a week, but that is not accurate. And where it is shown is when we add that February 29th every 4 years, just to even it out, just to make it look good, right? And so the message that came in was, just like each day is 24 hours, it's a box. It's a box that we place ourselves in. This day has 24 hours. 12 hours in the AM, 12 hours in the PM, or if you're on a military time, 24 hours, right? 1300, 1400, right? But that's not how it works. That's not how time works. That's not how space works. That's not how perspective works. So when we put ourselves in that box, in that 24-hour box, it shifts our perspective on how we see the essence of our existence, which is time and space, right? We're living day to day, and each day is timed at 24 hours. Each week is timed at 7 days, right? And so what came in very strong was that lie is unraveling. Our foundation of our existence is unstable because of that, just that one thing, that one manipulation, that one day, February 29th, created a world and a society that's built on an unstable foundation, and everything's coming unraveled because it's an unstable foundation. Regardless of all the other things that have happened on this world that are horrible, tragic, traumatic, the whole existence has been built on an unstable foundation, and the whole system will come unraveled. But it was allowed to grow. This is one thing we have to understand. It was allowed to grow. It was allowed to exist because divinity is trying to figure out what it can possibly be. And so it explored this journey. And this journey has been expansive and unfathomable. Every time I say that word, I mess it up. I got to work on that. It's beyond belief. This journey, Earth is so favored in the divine consciousness because of our experience and because of what it has learned about itself. We are incredibly blessed. And we are incredibly supported through this journey, even though right now, as everything's coming apart, it feels horrific and it feels traumatic and it feels overwhelming, what we have learned about ourselves, there is nothing that is of greater value. There is nothing that can be bought with the experience and the wisdom that we come out of this experience with, that divinity comes out of this experience with. Everything will change, everything will shift. That's what we're going through right now. And the final thing that just came in, and what I've known all for months now, is that the healing has already begun, but the message hasn't come through to share. I'm not sure why, but today it came through, and I forgot about it until this moment. The healing has already begun, and I'll just remind you, maybe not remind you if you didn't watch the video, but right at perihelion, right before Through Atlas hit perihelion, I was having extreme pain in all of my body, like from head to toe, muscles, joints, headaches, my back, physical in my body system. I couldn't even walk. I felt like all the bottom of my feet they weren't swollen, but they felt like they were swollen. So every roll of my foot was very painful. And then after perihelion, literally everything went away. Literally within days, everything, all the pains were gone. Occasionally, I feel some of those pains trying to come back, and then they're abated, they're pushed back. I can feel that energy trying to find its way back in, and I could feel it being pushed out. I could literally feel it being pushed out. And I've gone through a whole cleansing, very intense cleansing. So I'm very attuned to my body, and so I can feel those things. But I know the healing has already begun in very small ways. But as this unbalanced energy is dissipated, is broken down, we'll start to see it coming in stronger, and people will start to notice it more. Okay? All right, that's it. Thank you.